Hey, this is Brad Tipton, and I am your host today. And today I'm going to be sharing with you about how to discover the four shifts that my clients are currently using right now to save their marriages without having to go to long-term couples counseling. My big promise to you today is I'm going to show you how to save your marriage without long-term couples counseling, which you've probably heard already doesn't work anyway, even if your wife doesn't think the marriage is salvageable. So, who is this time together? Who is this webinar for? This is for Christian men who are on the brink of separation or divorce, and you don't want to go into couples counseling, or you've already tried couples counseling and it didn't work. So, in the next 30 minutes that we're together, I'm going to show you how to know how to save your marriage by wiping out the losing strategies that strangle even every bad relationship, even if you're both exhausted and at the end of your rope. I'm going to show you how to understand how you can pull your relationship back from the brink of divorce, even if it feels like it's too late. In these next minutes together, I want you to know how to save your marriage from the heartache of divorce. I want you to know how to understand how to break the vicious cycle that happens between two people, right? When they're in that same old repetitive fight. And more importantly, how to finally break out of that self-defeating pattern forever. So, does any of this sound familiar? Do you feel that you're running out of hope? Maybe you've been in couples therapy for a while and things feel better for a time, at least on a superficial level, but the resentment and hurt just keeps seeping right through, right? Does this sound familiar? Maybe there's been an affair or addiction to drink or drugs or porn, gambling, whatever, and you just can't take it anymore. After all, you're thinking to yourself, why should I? Why should you keep taking it? Why should you keep going through this? Right? Does it sound familiar to you where sex and intimacy and true connection are distant memories, right? And you're not even sure you want that anymore from your wife, right? Maybe you're scared right now, right? That you might have married the wrong person and that you'll never be loved. Right now, maybe you're at a point where you know that things have to change, or it's only a matter of time before you or she walks out the door, right? Maybe you're at a point right now where you find yourself justifying why you're staying because you feel guilty, because you both knew who you were at the beginning, right? She knew who I was, I knew who she was, right? Do you find yourself saying, well, I made my bed, I guess I got to lay in it right now? Maybe this sounds familiar. You feel like you have the same old argument over and over and over again, feeling so mad that it leaves you with nowhere to go except the spare room or the couch, right? Does it sound familiar to you where your wife seems so impossible right now? There's so much skepticism, so much mistrust, right? Where you feel like she's selfish or self protective or mistrustful, right? You're feeling like there's hopelessness, right? You feel like there's this great gulf between you, like she's on one mountain and you're on another mountain. There's a valley somehow in the middle, but you can't connect, right? Well, I want you to know if you can relate to any of those, I want you to know that those are not the real problem, right? Those are just symptoms like fruit, right? But they're not the root of the tree. Those things that we just talked about and mentioned are just symptoms. But the root is you just simply haven't embedded and implemented what I call the four shifts. And so by the end of this talk, you'll know the importance of truly understanding, grasping, embracing these four shifts, right? And the first shift is unlocking the toxic interactions between you and your wife. that are destroying your marriage, right? Unlocking that. Number two, learning and implementing the correct strategies for a thriving marriage in today's 21st century, right? Number three, getting the correct roadmap to design your compelling future, right? You guys, I mean, if, yeah, we'll talk about that, but getting the right and correct roadmap to design your compelling future. And number four, how to implement and embed these crucial changes in your hearts and in your minds and in your marriage. And so that I'm not rude, before we move forward, let me give you a little bit of idea about who I am. My name is Brad Tipton. I'm the author of a book called Bounce Back: How to Turn Failures and Mistakes into the Stepping Stones of Success, right? How to change obstacles into opportunities, right? How to take problems and use them to position yourself for the future that you want. So that's what that book is about. I wrote that book a couple of years ago, and it's not just about how to bounce back from failures and mistakes, but to bounce forward and have the future that you really want in your life. And just to give you a little bit more insight, I'm a former pastor from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And for the first 2 years of my marriage to my wife, Gail, they were great. I mean, amazing, heaven on earth, right? Just like you'd imagine. But however, for the next 12 years, due to the pressures of ministry, due to the pressures of money, and due to the challenges that can just be a part of being married, we struggled. And we struggled. Sadly, we separated. The church was dissolved, and ultimately we divorced and went our separate ways. Gail moved from Wisconsin to Iowa, and I stayed in Milwaukee, alone and embarrassed, too ashamed to face my friends, who were actually former friends, because they all had to kind of decide, are they Gail's friends or are they my friends? Right? It was just such a difficult time. And that difficulty, after the divorce, it went on until one day I joined a new church, and my pastor, who during this time also become my mentor, he gave me the four shifts that I'm going to share with you in a bit. But he gave me these four shifts that transformed my perspective, right? It brought me and Gail back together, and it completely resurrected our marriage. And today, Gail and I, right, the same Gail that divorced me and I divorced her, the same Gail today, Gail and I are remarried, and we enjoy a happy, growing, prospering, and fulfilling marriage. We've moved from the Midwest to sunny California, where we now live our, what I call our happily ever after, in the beautiful wine country here in California. So before you walk out the door, right? Before you walk out the door, I just encourage you, just take a moment and think. Take a moment to consider these four shifts that I'll be sharing with you today, right? Just take a moment and just take a step back and a push back and think about the four shifts that I'll be sharing with you. I know the big D word is on the table, right? Divorce, you're thinking about it or considering it, or separation. But I want you to know, when it comes to these things, 42 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce right now. And that's even with Christians, right? Over 60% of second marriages end in divorce, and 65 to 73% of third marriages end in divorce. The legal cost alone of divorce runs anywhere from $30,000 up to $100,000, and that depends on your income and your financial position. But the thing is, it doesn't even include half your house, half your savings, your pension. It doesn't even include that. In the United States alone, the average legal cost, these are the costs that goes to the attorneys, about $75,000, right? Let's not go to any of this, right? Let's not do any of this. I know, and there's a feeling out there that, look, let me just get out of here, Brad. Let me just start all over, right? The grass isn't greener, I'm trying to tell you, though. The grass isn't greener on the other side. You know where the grass is greener? The grass is greener where you water it. Let me say that again. The grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you take the time and water it and nurture it and grow it. I wasn't going to share this with you today, but I couldn't leave it out because it would be, it wouldn't be completely honest. I just want you to get real clear. I study a lot of Hebrew. As you know, the Old Testament is written in Hebrew, and there's a Hebrew word called dema, dema, and it means tears. And tears in the Hebrew language are the blood of the eye or of the soul. Somebody cries when it's like you take a knife and you hack them up inside. We all get it. If you cut somebody outside, they bleed outwardly. But the words that we say to each other, the difficulties and the challenges that you and your wife are facing right now, right? These words, these arguments, these fights have got to stop because it's like taking a knife and ripping at her soul. It's like taking a knife and she's ripping at your soul. And while there's not a physical blood that's happening, those tears mean you've been cut inside. And we just got to stop that. That's not what God's plan is for you or her. And I know that's not your goal. It's not your intention. We're not here to judge you, man, for real. So let's begin to talk about the 4 shifts to avoid divorce. Shift number 1 is the reveal, where you got to just get clear about some things. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Shift number 2 is where you reevaluate, right? This is not your mom's or your grandma's or your grandparents' marriage. This is a brand new marriage. Things operate differently in this 21st century. You really got to get your brain around it, get your heart around the new rules for the 21st century type of marriage. Shift number 3 is where you have to redefine and create a compelling future. The Bible says where there's no future, where there's no vision, people perish. And sometimes it's so difficult to have a vision for your marriage and for your family, for your legacy in the busy times that we live. And the final shift, shift number 4, is reimagine, where you embed and implement these crucial new changes into your marriage so that you can truly have the marriage that you've been desiring, the marriage that you planned when you guys got married. So let's talk about shift number 1, where you get clarity, right? It's important for you to get clarity about where are you in this thing, right? Are you mostly in or out of the relationship? Where are you at mentally and emotionally? Let's get clarity about the fight. What's this repetitive pattern that keeps showing up where you guys are fighting all the time or withdrawing from fighting about something that really needs to be looked at? And let's get clear about the true core problem that you guys are keep fighting about, right? Arguing about. So let's get clear. I mean, you don't have to answer me this, but I mean, let's get clear about this. Where are you? Are you mostly in or mostly out of this relationship? Are you truly committed to this marriage or not? I can't answer that question for you, but you got to get clarity, right? Because I want to help. God wants to help, but you are driving the bus on this thing. You got to get clear. Am I in this or not? And I hope your prayer and I hope your answer is, yeah, Brad, it's tough, but I'm committed. The second thing you got to get clarity about in shift number 1 is you got to study the fight. What is the repetitive pattern that's showing up when you guys fight, right? What's this repetitive pattern that keeps showing up, right? What is this thing? You got to look at this thing. You got to get clarity about this thing. Are we fighting about money? Are we fighting about sex? Are we fighting about, religious views, politics? I mean, what is the core? What are we fighting about? What's driving a wedge between us? Or is there something that you're avoiding? Something that needs to be dealt with? overspending or something like that. But every time you talk about it, it's like a landmine, right? You step on it, boom, and we argue. Like, as long as we don't talk about overspending or something like that, right? Or about some relationship that's toxic, that's a third party relationship that's outside the marriage, like a parent, overstepping and overreaching, right? So if you bring it up, it's an explosion. But we got to get clear about what the fight is that we keep having, right? And number three, we got to define the problem in solvable terms and move toward a solution, right? So if it's your mom-in-law or whatever the deal is, right? It's not like we can keep that person out of your life, but we got to define that she comes over too often or that she's in the house and she's trying to be taking the place that your wife should have in her own home, right? We got to define the problem in solvable terms and then move toward a solution that works. And here's the thing about it, right? You're not going to agree about everything with your wife, right? And so here's a saying that I really love, right? Apologizing doesn't always mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean the other person is right. It just means that you value the relationship more than your ego, right? And I tell you, I've learned one of the greatest things I can do is just apologize, right? And the big thing that you can really apologize to your wife about is for hurting her feelings, right? That's a big thing for wives. Baby, I'm so sorry that I hurt your feelings. I'm not saying I'm wrong or you're right. I'm saying whatever the case is, regardless of the issue, I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. I love you. You're valuable to me. Apologizing doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean the other person is right. It just means that you value the relationship more than your ego. So you got to get clarity. Shift number two is you got to reevaluate, right? So oftentimes we look at our parents or our grandparents, right? And their marriages and we try and we think, okay, well that worked for them, right? Let's try to do that. But what you find is that doesn't work in your life, right? This is a 21st century situation. I can't be like grandpa. I can't be like my dad. I really got to buckle down and learn how to, we both, right? You and your wife need to learn how to meet each other's needs. Learn how to redefine your roles. Learn how to upgrade your marriage operating system. What do I mean by meet each other's needs? Right? Oftentimes, a wife is looking for some sort of stability and certainty, right? And she gets that from the husband, right? We can't be moving every year or every 2 years, right? We can't be quitting a job, or something like that every 90 days, right? The family needs certainty, but the family needs variety too. It can't be the same old sex, the same old dinner, the same old movie, the same old, same old. The marriage needs variety. The marriage needs significance, right? Where your wife knows that you rank above, she ranks above your buddies, or you need to let her know that it seems like she's so busy with her mom that she doesn't have time for you and that you deserve significance, right? What about love and connection, right? Sometimes we can be so busy. She's doing her thing. She's out making dollars. She's out making money, or you're out making money. You're out working. And sometimes we can't even connect. We forget that we love each other, right? We forget that we got to put processes in place to grow the relationship, right? And there has to be contribution beyond ourselves. What is our marriage about? More than just self. And we can talk about that more, but in that reevaluate stage, we got to meet each other's needs. We got to redefine our roles, right? It used to be back in the day that, the husband's job was making the money and earning. But it's possible these days for a woman to make more money than a man. And sometimes that's difficult for the man to not be making all the money or whatever the deal is, right? So we have to redefine these roles. Household responsibilities, it's dishes and laundry and ironing and cooking and feeding the baby and so on are not these days are not solely the wife's job or role anymore, right? It's not like we're going to shift all that onto the husband either, but we've got to redefine the roles, talk about these things. We got to have time for love and for physical intimacy, right? And oftentimes now we've got other people in the house, like an elderly parent or grandparent, who's going to take on the caretaking role, right? That can't fall on just one person. So we need to talk about redefining the roles in the 21st century. And then we need to upgrade our marriage operating system. And we get it. I mean, on our computers and laptops, right? We get these push outs from Microsoft or whomever. They're updating the system, right? And it's inconvenient. But in a marriage, we have to really toss out the old operating system, what I call the merit system. And we need to upgrade to what I call the unconditional love system. The merit system says, look, if you act right, then I love you, right? If you do what I say, then you've got my approval. And if you don't do what I say, how I say do it, or whatever the case, or if you don't act right, or if you don't speak right, or if you don't, it's an if then. If you do, then I love you. If you don't, then I'm angry. Or I give you the silent treatment or whatever the case is. It's that you always find yourself trying to earn the love, right? But in the unconditional upgrade system, it's like it's the do it anyway. I know you didn't say things the way I would have wanted you to say things, or I know you didn't do things the way I thought that I would want you to do things. But let's be clear. I love you, right? It's not like we're going to bed tonight and our feet aren't going to touch because you didn't do something or I did do something or it's this thing. No, this is not the merit system anymore. The if then, if you do, then I'll, and if you don't, then I won't system. This is the I love you regardless system. We got to upgrade to this. Shift number three is what I call the redefine, where you come up with and create a compelling future for your life, for your marriage, right? Where you got to see your marriage almost like a multi-generational business, where you got to have the maturity and interdependent situation going on in your relationship, where you're actually cherishing what you have right now, regardless of what it was in the past or what it will be. How can we live in the now? So when it comes to seeing your marriage as a multi-generational business, I'm not saying it is a business, it's a relationship. But what happens with a multi-generational business, you see longer. See, I live in California where we have a wine country, and these wine vineyards were planted by like three granddads ago, knowing that there would be vineyards that would take a generation or two once they were planted to begin to bring wine. And then the wine has to be stored sometimes for years. So the decisions that are made in the wine business here by people today, picking and barreling the grapes and things, they know they may never see or taste the wine. So they're doing it for the generations. They're planting, we have what's called almond trees here in California. We're the biggest almond producer in the world, right? And what happens is they're planting trees now. The farmers are planting trees now that won't mature for 30, 40 years. It'll be their children and grandchildren. And so what I'm saying is when it comes to your marriage, it has to be this view of we're living our lives not just for us, but for generation that we may never meet. And we want to know that their lives are better because we stayed together. So begin to see yourself almost like a multi-generational business where your customer or your client is your children and their grandchildren who have a legacy that you started or continued today. See farther than where you are right now. See farther than the fight, farther than the fussing, farther than the obstacles. And when you see things from that perspective, the current things get so small, right? The maturity of interdependence is so important, right? The days in your life are gone where you're like some single guy and she's some single girl where you can make it on your own. It's a humbling thing to say, I need you. I love you. I want to be around you. I'm not trying to live my life without you. There's a maturity that comes in understanding that we go farther together. We're better together. There's this maturity of interdependence where I need what you bring to the table. I promise you, Gail is better at handling the money than I am, my wife, Gail. I can make the money just fine. She handles and she runs the financial portion of the life. I just simply bring the money in and I send it to her. Not because I'm trying to push things off on her. It's just that she's better at that than me. I need her. Our children need her so that we have a legacy of financial independence that we send down to them. And you got to begin to cherish what you have, right? I promise you, and I'm sorry if I'm just being kind of, I'm not using the right English, but it ain't nothing out there in those streets. It ain't nothing out there in those streets for you. No better woman, no better this, no better that, no better opportunity. The grass ain't greener. It's you just begin to just cherish what you have and say the grass is greener where I water it, and I'm going to water my wife, and my wife is going to water me, and I'm going to water our children, and I'm going to water our life, and we're going to pull out the weeds when they come up, and we're going to have a fruit that lasts for generations. But we're going to start by cherishing what we have. I'm not looking up and down the road. I'm not looking at the girl with this or that curve or whatever the deal is, right? I'm honoring and cherishing what we have. Shift number 4, and the final shift, is reimagine. You got to learn how to embed and implement these crucial mindset changes that I'm sharing with you today, right? Let me ask you this question before I even get to this question. This question that I'm about to ask you is so powerful that it alone is worth the time that you share with me today and that you're sharing with me today. Because this question I'm about to ask you is about to change everything in your life, in your marriage, everything. So let's get to it. I'm going to ask you a question, and it's going to change everything in a single instant. So as we talking about like the difficulties, the fussing, the fighting, the challenges, the obstacles, the hardship that makes you feel like, look, I don't even know if my next argument is going to be the divorce or the leave the door or the separation, these challenges, the over that keep coming. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to ask you a question that's getting ready to change all of that. So let's ask the question. Here's the question. What if the challenges you are facing right now are happening for you instead of to you? What if this whole thing is being used by God right now? I'm not saying God is bringing this challenge into your life. I'm saying, what if He's involved? What if He cares? What if He loves you? And what if all these challenges that you're facing right now actually aren't happening to you? They're happening for you. I'm telling you, what if the challenges you're facing are happening for you instead of to you? What if God is using this to grow you? What if God is using this to mature you? What if God is using this to change you, to transform you? See, I want you to know He's the master of using stuff that looks ridiculous and hard. I mean, you're a Christian, you get it. So Mary has this beautiful baby named Jesus, right? He grows up, he never does anything wrong. But here he is on trumped up charges where they jail him, where they accuse him, they jail him, they put a crown of thorns on his head, they beat him with their fists, and they take whips and they it's called stripes. They whipped him 39 times and ripped his skin off of his back. And then they took the palms of his hands and the feet of his feet, and they nailed nails through them and put him on a cross. And then they took a spear and shoved it in his side. And then they killed him. And then they buried him. Now that seems like it's not fair. That seems like it's ridiculous. That seems like he doesn't deserve that. That seems like what good could come out of that? What could be when you're walking through that, what is the plan of a guy who did nothing wrong and he gets completely charged, he gets completely beat, he completely gets whipped, he completely gets shoved through with a sword, he completely gets nailed on a cross, he completely dies, he completely is buried. And from the disciples' point of view, the game is over. And all the while, God is saying, perfect. My plan is working. There's a transformation that's coming. I'm taking the thing that's a mess and making it a miracle. He took the mess of the cross and made it a miracle for my freedom and for yours. So my question is, the things that happened to Jesus, did they happen to him? Or was it for us so that we could be free? And I'm asking you, the things that you're experiencing right now, what if they're happening for you instead of to you? What if God is looking to change you and to transform you? And what if you took this whole mess and gave it all to God and asked him and said, use it, God, and use me, Father, for your glory. Take this whole mess, take this whole thing, transform my life, transform my wife, transform my family, transform me, God. Work through me, use me. I'm yours, I'm here. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. Search me, God. Break me, God. Send me, Father. Use me. Do whatever you have to do. I'm yours. Take this mess and make it a miracle. I'm yours. What if you gave it all to God? What if you just gave it all to God? Your life would be transformed. God is doing a powerful thing in your life. You just don't know it. I know it's harder than you think. God's plan is always harder than you think. I know the timing isn't what you would want. God's timing never is what you want. That's how you know you're in his will. But he's working a bigger thing through you, a broader thing through you, a deeper thing through you, a more of a lasting thing through you. When you give it to him and say, Lord, use me. I give you this mess. Search me, break me, send me. Use me, God. What if the challenges you're facing right now are not happening to you, but they're happening for you? And what if you gave it all to God and asked him to use it and take it and make it beautiful? It's so important to implement and embed these crucial changes and ask these questions to yourself. What if this isn't happening to you? What if it's happening for you? And what would happen if you gave it all to God and said, Lord, use it. Take me, search me, break me, send me, transform me. Let somebody else's life be better because of what I've been through. Father, use this mess and turn it into a miracle. Implement and embed these crucial changes into your marriage. And if you work with the right coach, I promise you, God is doing something big in your life, through your life. This isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, but you do need the right coach. And the simplest way to know, to make a decision about if you need to get a coach, is to ask yourself these two quick questions. Just ask yourself, so far, of all the things I've tried to save my marriage, am I any closer to having a stable, happy, growing, prospering marriage? Am I any closer? Second, ask yourself, for the time, the headache, the heartache that I've invested so far, am I even one step closer to the spiritually connected, physically fulfilling, and emotionally healthy marriage that I truly want, that I know is available? Am I even one step closer? And the answer is, if if you aren't pleased with either of those questions, then get a coach. Invest in yourself. Some people say, well, Brad, well, do I really need a coach for my marriage? Yeah, because in this day and age, simply knowing what to do is not nearly enough. You can go on Google and find out what to do. If you put in the word save my marriage, you'll get like I think it's 6 million different answers, PDFs, downloads, videos. It's not about knowing what to do. That's not enough. You need to know, how do I make these changes? How do I let this work for me as opposed to me? How do I get God involved in this thing? You need to know how. You need to have your questions answered. You need to have accountability. You need to have somebody that'll walk through this thing with you, who's been through it before, like me. See, a coach is somebody who's already walked down a road that you're trying to walk down. A coach is somebody who's accomplished a feat or an outcome or a result that you're trying to get result. You just don't know the twists. You just don't know the turns. But the coach knows the twists, the turns, the valleys, the depths, the crooks in the road, the obstacles. So now you're at a crossroads. Based upon what I shared, you can do nothing. That's possible. You can do nothing. You can keep doing what you've always done so far and expect some sort of a different outcome. You can try to change things on your own for what, another 10 years? Or you can get a coach to show you the way. And I'm here to help. Me and my team have set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply these 4 shifts to save your marriage. And whatever your biggest challenges are, we've seen it. We know it. I know exactly what to do to overcome it. I've been there. Remember? I overcame the big bad wolf of divorce. I beat him just like David beat Goliath. I've been there and I won. So I say, reach out to me and let's just talk. And on the session, we'll work with you to craft a step by step game plan to save your marriage without some long drawn out counseling sessions that do nothing more than bring up the past and blame the husband for everything. And our goal is to help you begin waking up every morning in a stable, happy, growing, and prospering, fulfilling marriage. That's the goal. Some would say, Brad, what's the cost? If I call you, or if I talk to you, if I schedule time and talk to you, what's the cost? It's free. And people say, well, Brad, okay, it's free, but nothing in life is free. So what's the catch? But there is no catch. This really is free. Talking with me, and people say, well, okay, well, then why are you doing it? If it's so free, why are you doing it? Right? And the answer is we'll talk. See, one of the challenges in marriage challenges that you're facing is that it's so hard to talk. It's like while you're talking with her, fussing with her, fighting with her, arguing, you can't even get your point out. She's already thinking of what she's about to say while you're speaking. She's not listening. Well, I'm here to listen. I'm not here to talk and, talk, talk, talk. I want to hear, what is your vision for your marriage? Right? That intergenerational thing. What is your vision for your marriage? What are some of the obstacles, the big challenges that keep bringing up the fights? What are those core things about? What are those big obstacles that are hindering your marriage? And then let's put a plan in place to overcome those obstacles and help you achieve the vision that you have for your wife or your family. And as we walk through that, some will say to me, Brad, will you help me with this? Will you coach me on this? Will you mentor me on this? Will you be my accountability partner through this? Will you coach me? Yeah, and that happens. People ask me that all the time. Guys ask me that. And if that's the case, great. And we'll talk about that. But let's be clear about who this call, because I'm asking you to make a call, talk with me. Let's be clear about who this call is not for and who this call is for. Right? See, this call is not a good fit if your wife has already left the marriage and is resolute to never come back. Right? The calling me is not going to work if your wife is actively involved with somebody else. Right? I'm not the right fit if your wife is suffering from some sort of an acute or untreated addiction or personality disorder. If your wife is some sort of an abusive narcissist type, then no, that's not a good connection for me and you. That's not, I mean, she needs help from some sort of a clinical situation. But who is the call for? This call is a good fit for those who know, for men just like you, who know they have invested too much time, too much energy, too much headache and heartache. And right now, they're still not even one step closer to saving their marriage. This call is for men, Christian men, who are committed to their wife, committed to their family. This call is for Christian men who believe that the same God who overcame the cross and raised from the dead has also the same power. He's the same God who's able to fix and repair and restore and save your marriage. If that's the case, if that's you, you're committed to God, you're committed to your family, you're committed to your marriage, you believe that the same God who had the power to raise up from the dead, that same God has the power to save your marriage, then yeah, this is a great call for you. So if you know you need coaching from somebody who has and is currently walking the talk, someone who's been down the path you're currently on and has successfully overcome the same thing you're dealing with, then here's what I want you to do, right? Take action, right? I'm going to try to make a link appear on here. You may see a link below this training, this video. What I want you to do is click that button or click that link. And when you click that link, my calendar will appear. What I want you to do is click on that. And I know there's a lot of people watching this, so I want you to move on that now. Click on the link, see my calendar, book the call, and then let's talk. Not a bunch of talk from me, but I want to listen. I want to hear. What is your vision for your wife, for your family, for your legacy? What are the big obstacles that keep getting in the way and showing up as arguments? What are those obstacles? And then let's get together and let's create a path and plan to overcome those obstacles so that you have the marriage that you know is available. Where you're saying, Lord, what if this isn't happening to me, but what if this is happening for me? How can I give this mess to you and turn it into a miracle? Father, search me and break me and use me. I'm yours. So click the link. You'll see my calendar. Book the call at a time and a day that's convenient for you, and then let's talk. I want you to know I'm super excited to talk with you. I'm looking forward to talking with you. You know, even this time together today, talking about these 4 shifts, have been my pleasure, right? I know what it's like to hurt. I know what it's like to be divorced all the way through. At least you're not that. But the same God who met me, resurrected my marriage, put us back together, transformed my perspective, gave me a vision, overcame our obstacles, and now I'm being used to touch your life. He took my mess and he's making it into a miracle. So I'm looking forward to talk with you. So click the button, select a day and time that's right for you. Let's talk. Let's hear about your vision. Let's understand the obstacles, and let's put a path and plan in place so that you can have the marriage that you really know is possible for you and your beautiful bride. So this is Brad Tipton. I'm signing off. I appreciate this time. I'm saluting you for the amazing time that we've had together. I look forward to hearing from you. So again, my name is Brad. I'm signing off. It's been a joy. All the best to you. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Blessings. Blessings for now. Bye.